brother and sister, together we'll make it through. Oh, yeah.
Good morning, afternoon, or night, depending what time you're watching this. This is Melanin Mindset, a show that looks at mental health issues within the Black community. Today, I am joined with two guests. The guest, if you'd like to introduce yourself, we'll start with Simone.
Hi, my name's Simone, and I'm a primary school class teacher and Senko.
Okay. Summer.
Hi everyone, my name is Summer Artman. I'm a professional netball player playing for Team Park and England, and I also work in a school with children who have various mental health and behavioural difficulties.
Cool. So obviously we've been in lockdown for a long period of time, and we've come out, gone back into it, come out again. How's it been for you guys in terms of your occupation and, going in and out of, your work?
Well, my school didn't actually close. So with it being a school that is there to serve children with difficulties, they stayed open the whole way through. And parents didn't have to send their children in, so some children were at home, and so navigating how you were going to teach the children through Zoom and stuff, it was difficult, just because of the challenges that the children faced themselves in terms of attentional difficulties and stuff. But yeah, it was a challenging time, but we got through it, as I'm sure Simone did as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's the same, and we stayed open as well. Throughout, so we didn't experience a lockdown, as it were, because we were just open, and we were open particularly for the vulnerable children. So those were children who did have special needs. We encouraged those children to come into school, and children who we thought would have benefited from being in school, as well as key workers as well. But it was all go through the lockdowns.
You mentioned Zoom, like teaching over Zoom. How does that go in terms of your normal lesson plans, how you would normally plan out your lesson plans, and then the transition of doing that but over Zoom?
Well, I think over Zoom you don't have that. You also can't touch the children over Zoom, whereas being face to face, it's easier to kind of get them to engage with you sometimes. And being on Zoom for hours on end, it's not good for adults, let alone children. And so I guess making sure that the sessions were shorter, making sure that they were engaging and the children knew what was coming beforehand, so they kind of knew what to expect. I think that was the way that we did it. But I think it was good that for the children who were coming into the school, they could still have the routine of coming in, and so there was less disruption for them, which I think is why we encourage them to come in. So yeah, that's it really.
Yeah,
No, carry on.
I was just going to add a little bit to Zoom, because I'm currently in reception. So I'm teaching the babies, the 4 and 5 year olds. So it was quite a difficult thing at first to find my feet with doing Zoom lessons, and I found that parent engagement was so key. I had to get the parents on board, to make sure that the children were focused. Otherwise, I'd look down and I'd see children pulling faces at each other and turning on their microphones and having a whale of a time. So, after a while, we got into a routine, but it was something different, but it worked. It did work in the end.
I've seen a lot of memes over the period, and I saw a common trend, which was you have a parents' evening, and then you got the teacher saying your child is a bit disruptive or whatever, and the parents' reply is maybe your teaching isn't as good, and now it's flipped around to the parent actually realizing, oh, okay, it's a lot harder.
No job. Yeah.
Okay, so how long have you both been in the educational field for children?
So this is my first role coming out of uni, so a year. just been in there. So I've just finished my first year.
Wow.
Yeah, for me, I think this will be my 8th year now in primary education. Yeah.
Simone, can you remember your first year?
Oh gosh, yeah, my NQT year. It was exciting, but exciting and stressful. You know, it was a juxtaposition of feelings and emotions, but just to get through was great. But yeah, so it must be an experience for you, Summer, as well, with it being lockdown as well. It must have been very different to what you probably would have been expecting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I was really grateful for, and I was a bit apprehensive at first, because for the past like 4 or 5 years you've been reading case studies and stuff in a textbook, and then to have real children that you're then dealing with was a bit daunting at first. And I mean, I'm not a teacher, so my role, it wasn't to teach it. I more deal with like the therapeutic and behavioural side of the children's learning, and so when you've got children who are maybe self-harming, or you know, coming to you with real life difficulties, it's not a case of identifying certain theories and frameworks that you've read about. You've got to do something there and then. You've got to say the right thing there and then. So for me, that has been the biggest learning process, and probably just the biggest learning curve in how I'm actually delivering the role outside of the learning environment.
Yeah.
Obviously the pandemic has thrown a curveball in your direction, but is it what you expected in terms of, you know, the children that you're having to deal with?
Is it what I've expected? I think in some ways it is what I expect. I knew the role that I was going into, but I mean, like I said, it's just being confident in my ability to help the children as they're going through whatever they're going through, and I think also not trying to do everything. You know, I'm not the caregiver, I'm not at home with them, I'm not there with them 24/7. So for me, I think what I've learned is doing my role within the school. I can only do what I can do within the school hours. And so just knowing that is actually okay for me to do, and I don't actually have to take on everything and try and be everything to each child.
Right, okay. Simone, you've been doing this for 8 years now.
Yeah.
So over that period of time, what sort of transitions have you gone through? Has there been, and is it the same as it was when you first started? Have you had to alter your style at any given time, or how has it been over the 8-year span?
Every year's been different, I guess, and you know, in my own experience, I've developed, you know, into to hopefully a better teacher every year. But I think for me, it was starting to kind of get into the pedagogy, so the reason behind teaching and how to connect with the children, because there's always different theories and different ideas and new phases that are coming out, where schools kind of want to jump onto this, say, oh, you know, this is the new thing, everyone's doing this, it seems to be working, let's do this. Oh, that's not working for us, okay, let's try this instead. You know, it's constant, like, okay, changing. But in that, you kind of find your own way as a teacher to say, yeah, this is what works for me, and this is how I can, you know, teach the children, this is how I can get through to the children. So I think through experiencing different methods of teaching, I guess, different proven ways of teaching, I've been able to find my own feet and find something that works for me. Still got to, you know, keep into consideration, you know, the way that the school works. But it's been a great journey, and I'm still on it. That's
good. You mentioned parents, like getting on board with the parents, and you know, you're doing the Zoom and getting the parents involved as well. Brings me on to my point of what I want to make. Culturally, right? So we know we've had these conversations, whether it's sat at the back of the bus talking about back in the days where your parents used to cut you off and etc. All the things that we discuss as black people and growing up in a black household, and you've got all the jokes and the memes and all of that sort of stuff. Have you seen any sort of cultural divide or cultural differences when trying to do it over Zoom with the parents being involved as well? And how have you dealt with that?
When you say cultural divide, do you mean what I see the parents to be there?
Yeah, like how the parents are with the child. Yeah.
Yeah. The school that I work at is a majority Somali. It's a majority Somali community,
Okay.
so there's quite a big Somali community, and then there's also Black African, other, as it were, Nigerian and other. I'm saying making everybody into one group, and there's a few English white children, and there's also a few Black Caribbean children as well. And I found that that the Somali community, they, like, the whole family was around the screen with the child. They were all engaged in the lesson that was happening, wanting to know what was going on.
No pressure.
Seeing them, and you got used to it after a while. You're like, okay, hi mom, hi sister, they're all there. I found that with the other Black, as I said, the Black African, the Black Caribbean, you'd have their parent on the side, so they were still there, and you could see if the child was messing around, you could see that they were being chastised. Sit up, you can see that little points of the finger sort of thing. So the parents were always there. In my experience, I've always had them around there. Same with the English children, the parents would be there, or the Polish children will be there. So I didn't see a difference in the parent involvement. And I think what made a difference with that as well is the relationship that I had with the parents before. I formed very good relationships with the parents, and because sometimes when I'm looked at, you can't quite figure out where I'm from. So I think there was that thing, she might be from my culture, she might be from my culture. So I think that kind of played a part for me as well, to have that kind of that support from different communities and cultures, in my personal experience. Yeah.
Have you ever been asked that by any of the parents?
I'm asked all the time. And it's kind of, it's not a shock, but it's kind of like, oh, okay, you're not. But they're like, oh well, you look like you're from here, and I'm like, oh, thank you, thank you, and I'm happy to seem as though I am. But yeah, it's I guess I'm used to it. Yeah.
Okay, and Summer, what about you in terms of the parents as well?
I don't actually deal with the parents, so I was just listening to Simone's answer, and I was drawing comparisons to what it's like in a treatment facility. So I remember learning at uni in terms of when you were saying that the Somali families, and we learned about the Southeast Asian, like Bangladeshi communities as well. When you're delivering treatment, often you might be dealing with the auntie, but everyone turns up to the sessions, and you kind of got to explain the session and the treatment plans to all different members of the family. So yeah, I definitely resonated with that. But in terms of the school setting, no, I don't deal with the parents.
Okay. I want to ask, you studied at uni, obviously. I want to ask, what was it that made you want to get involved with the line of work that you're in now?
So I studied psychology as my undergrad, and then my master's is in cultural and global mental health, and specifically focusing on refugees and asylum seekers. But in terms of working in a school, it was, I think, just being able to speak life over children who are dealing with difficulties at home. I see a lot of children who are dealing with neglect and or who have been neglected in early childhood. And for me, I think one of my gifts is to encourage, and just being able to be there and be a positive influence in the children's lives. I think that's definitely that's a big purpose of me going into the school every day, and that's why I try and remember when things are challenging that there's purpose behind it,
Okay, cool. And Simone, what about you? What was the the factor that made you get into teaching?
I initially it was in church. I used to be the youth leader for young children, and during that time, the passion that they had for learning and just seeing, the end result of teaching them like a song and how they would be able to perform it and remember it, I really enjoyed being a part of that process. So that was when I was in university still. So in university I studied psychology and sociology, and I followed those more of a passion rather than wanting to go into it. So I guess while in university I kind of found that my calling, as it were, for children, teaching children. And then in my gap year before I took my PGCE, I did some teaching experience, and it was during that time that I realised where I wanted to work as a teacher. So I did teaching experience in different areas, with different cohorts of children, different communities, and from that, as a result of that, I really wanted to make sure that I worked in a inner city school, in a school where the children, statistically, they don't matter. I wanted to be in that kind of school because that's the kind of school that I went to as a when I was in primary school. And the teachers that I had were amazing, and I was able to excel and be the best that I could be. So I wanted to be able to input that into those children as well, and particularly the black boys. That was my target. And even now, my black boys are the children who I really zone into, because I never forget on a teaching experience, there was this lovely boy, and he had a teacher who just couldn't relate to him. And she would say, "Oh, you're naughty, stop doing that, you're naughty," when actually he wasn't doing anything. He was just fiddling with his fingers, and he was confused. He was like, okay. And I remember going up to him once, I can't remember his name, I could just see his little face, and I said, "Are you okay? Should we come over here?" And he said, "No, I can't go over there. Miss such and such said I'm naughty, I can't go over there." And that really broke my heart, because it seemed as though she just found it difficult to relate to him. She couldn't relate to him. So because she couldn't understand his behaviour, she just labelled him as naughty. And he was a 4-year-old child, and that's something that's going to imprint on him. He's going to carry on with that. So that was one of the things that I always wanted to make sure that I was teaching children who I could teach, academically, but also be able to be there for them as somebody who understands them, or is shown to understand them, and I can talk to them in a way that they're familiar with being spoken to as well. So that was me. I think I answered the question. I hope I did.
No, you did. No, I mean, it comes back to what Summer was saying about speaking life into the children. Like, the teacher labeling him as naughty, fiddling with his fingers. Like you said, they're putting a print on there. There's power in words, and you can speak life, you can speak death, and you keep calling him naughty, he's going to end up being naughty because you're placing that on him. You're putting that in the atmosphere, into the spirit. So when you're dealing with children, this is more for Summer, because you have children which are classed as sort of challenging behaviours. What sort of do you have any routines that you do for your own mental well-being to help you deal with these children?
So I mean, when I come home, if I have had a challenging day, then I will pray about it, and pray over the children as well. I've done that a few times at home and also in the classroom before we start the day. But yeah, I think mainly it's just making sure that I'm not trying to do everything. And I think something that Simone was saying that I really kind of resonated with was knowing that what you can say to a child can stick with them throughout their whole life, and the importance of that. And so I don't need to be trying to do motivational talks every day and all day every day, but I know that there might be one thing that I say to a child that will stick with him or her and that they can carry with them throughout their life. And so I think just focusing on that, you know, it doesn't have to be every conversation, but there might just be one thing that I've said that day, even if it's been a really challenging day or a really challenging week. There might be one thing that I've said that is going to really encourage that child that they can hold on to. So, you know, we all remember that at school for ourselves, whether it would be positive or negative. And so, yeah, I think it's just knowing that there might be just one thing, and that could be enough.
Okay. Now, you heard Simone say about the young black boys, that sort of a passion. Not favoritism or anything like that.
No, it's not. It's not a favoritism.
No, I know. But is there a pattern in any in the black community in your line of work, Summer, that, you know, is a pattern? Like you mentioned earlier on, things like neglect and things like that. Is there a particular pattern with any ethnic community that you're coming across?
I wouldn't say a pattern within the black community. I would say that when things are going on outside of school, so in society, that are impacting the black community, you know, if there's for example, on the news, if children are hearing things about stabbings or violence against black people or race issues, that can then, I can see that transpire in school in attentional difficulties or irritable behaviour, and how the children might act in school within the classroom. And if you are a teacher who's not aware of the things that are going on in wider society, you might think that child is just being disruptive, just because they're a disruptive child, and you're not really taking in the whole situation. And so I think it's really important for teachers to take a step back, or take a step into that child's world and what they're dealing with as a child, who is black and who is potentially facing all these different barriers outside of the school that you might not be aware of. So yeah, I'd say that is the pattern rather than anything else.
Okay. Now, you're both black teachers, black female teachers, well, black women in education. How important is representation for the young people, seeing you?
I think it's really important. I think just being there, you are breaking down a barrier in that the children who are seeing you, they can envision being in a role of leadership or in a role that you are, whether that be like headmistress or teacher or, you know, otherwise. So there might be a multitude of barriers that they have to face and have to overcome, but seeing themselves in a role within a school isn't one of them because they've already seen it. I think where the conversation can move to is when you are able to be in that role and do it exceptionally and be authentically yourself. And that, I think, is really powerful, because then you're not just there as a monolith and as, you know, just ticking the box of being black in that role. You are then bringing in your own individual gifts and talents, your God-given gifts and talents, and you're able to show up as something really unique. And I think that is the part that's really powerful for me. And I think that is the part that actually influences not just the children, but your colleagues, those who are your bosses and those who are, you know, on your level as well, because everyone is then seeing you as your best self. And then the fact that you're black, just subliminally might change something and change a narrative in their mind. But yeah, I love seeing not just black people taking up roles, but black people really excelling and being themselves within those roles.
Okay. And Simone, what's your views on it?
Yeah, representation is so important, as Summer has said, because you know, me being me in school, being a black female, not only for, you know, the way that I look, but I guess in terms of the young girls there, you know, what they see on the TV are, you know, girls with, you know, straight hair, you know, face full of makeup, you know, that seems to be the way to go, even young girls. Whereas in school, you know, they see me and now, you know, I'll come to school with my hair in like 2 cane rows, what they have, or, you know, I have my hair back in a bun, or it's curly, or it's just, you know, it's plaited up. It's something that they can relate to, and it seems like a small thing, but you know, I have children from, oh miss, I've had my hair like that before, and it's something, it allows you to form a relationship with them. It allows you to form some kind of bond with them, not only with the children. I always go back to the parents, but with the parents as well, so the parents can identify more with you to see that, okay, this person's a little bit like me, you know, they're a little bit like me, you know, I can speak to this person and feel comfortable with this person. So yeah, representation is key, and as Summer said, representation of people in positions of positive authority, you know, in positions that you want to aspire to be as yourself as well, are really, really important, especially in inner city areas, in areas where the young people there, or the people there, aren't really expected to be much or to do much or to get out of where they are. So it is really important. Yeah.
Okay, I want to come back to something that you were talking about earlier. Now, you mentioned the Somalian community, and then you went on to use the term the others, quote unquote others, right? Now, prior to this being called Melanin Mindset, it was an audio podcast called The Wellbeing Show, which the name didn't go down too well with a lot of people. And over the past 2-3 years, I've been learning more about the concept of the name BAME, okay, and how it pretty much translates to the others. And what's your views on that? I mean, you were talking about it earlier when you were saying, you know, you've got the Somalian and then they discuss the other Africans or the Caribbeans. What's your views on terms like BAME, or, you know, just saying ethnic minorities?
When I did say it, you know, when I said all the others, I kind of was like, oh gosh, I wish I didn't use that term, the others, but my mind went blank to, you know, to start to list off the other, the races, you know, so I wish I didn't, but they are BAME, you know, BMA, that BAME, that, you know, that's I think it's a very general, broad term, you know, a very general, broad term, just like saying white as well, because that's a very general, broad term as well, because there are different cultures within that as well, you know, different, there's differences within that. So, you know, and especially in the school that I am in, I like to know where the different countries and the different places that people are from, so that they feel seen, you know, feel represented. So it's a really important thing to not use other like I did, but to really you know, to be able to label correctly or identify correctly somebody's cultural race or what they want to identify as.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to bring it to a close now. So I'm just coming to the last questions, and in that I want to say, what do you have you ever come across any form of conflict or barrier when going into your field of work? Summer, I know you said you've only been in the role for a year, so you're sort of fresh out of uni. But going into the role, did you ever experience any barriers from maybe, you know, other members of staff or, you know, employees?
Well, when I first started, it was in September. Was it in September? Yeah, it was in September, but they were going into like a Black History kind of month. And so the teachers were kind of think they were a bit on edge, knowing that there was a Black girl who was within the cohort now, colleague. But I mean, that wasn't a barrier. That was just, that was actually something quite positive, and something that I think it was good for me to be there, so that people couldn't just get away with just teaching that curriculum or teaching Black history as part of the curriculum just to tick a box. Like, I think it made the colleagues kind of really think about what they were teaching, and make sure that it was as accurate as possible. But I mean, any real barriers? Nah, I wouldn't say so. Actually, actually, I think one would be like blanket statements that might get used in the classroom, and the barrier would be for me as a new staff member, knowing when to challenge certain attitudes and when it might be wise for the benefit of the children, for me not to challenge it there and then, and how to have those conversations about things to say and things not to say, questions to ask, questions not to ask. That would be one barrier or learning curve that I've had this year, but overall very positive.
Oh, Simone, what about you?
Yeah, same. I don't think in my within my school setting, there are a lot of Black the head teacher is Black as well. So talking about Black history, that's actually been incorporated into our curriculum throughout the year. So that's there, and teachers of other cultures and whatnot. They're very they want to learn. They don't want to have that ignorance about any other culture, when we're teaching. And I think with when things started to come out more in the media, surrounding all the deaths and everything that was happening surrounding Black Lives Matter, it sparked an interest in our staff, in the staff that were there, and we were able to have some really good conversations about what was happening as well. So I don't think we've had any barriers as such. I do remember once when one teacher wanted the children to learn about Lenny Henry as a historical figure, and we kind of all like rolled our eyes, like, really? You can't think of anybody else. But he was learning as well and trying his best, but nothing that I can think of.
His heart was in the right place.
Yeah, he was trying.
Okay, cool. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to both of you. I want to thank you for your insight into the world of education at a primary level. And I wish you all the best for the future. Keep going strong, keep doing what you're doing. And, I was about to say I hope, but I know you're going to be a positive influence on all the children that you come in contact with, and sowing the seeds into them and, setting the future, because obviously, the old saying, children are the future, so, we're speaking life into them, and we're encouraging them, and we're hoping for the best for them. So once again, thank you for this time, and to all those who have been watching, this has been Melanin Mindset. Good afternoon, good morning, and good night. Peace.
Thank you for having us, Emil.